Welcome back to the Sherwood Urban Farm. It's winter in South Africa and your vegetables might not be thriving, but you are not alone. Today we are tackling 5 common issues you might face in a winter vegetable garden and how to fix them. If the leaves of your vegetables are wilted and there's even black edges around the leaves, then that could be frost damage. So what happens is when the temperature dips below 0 degrees Celsius, then the cell walls actually burst. So what you can do to fix this is you can cover your plants with horticultural fleece, or some people even use cardboard if they know you've got to be on your game and checking the weather. Then when you know it's going to be frosty during the night or early hours of the morning, you can cover your plants with cardboard. And then some people even, what they do is, if you have a small area like container gardening, you can use this 5-liter water bottle, and you cut off the bottom and you put that over your plant. Obviously that's going to have to be small plants, not big cabbages and that. You also want to apply mulch. I'm always on about mulch, but mulch is amazing. I mean, it feeds the soil and it keeps the moisture in, and it also stops your weeds from growing in. It will also insulate the soil so that it doesn't freeze, and then your plant's roots freeze. Then you may as well just throw that plant out. It will also be helpful to install windbreaks. If you, like in my garden, I've got quite a lot of trees, and that's very helpful. Not that we get frost here, but it helps with the microclimate because the wind will pump through here, but it won't be as severe as a garden which has no trees. And then it will also prevent the chill factor from bringing the temperature down excessively. Last year, when I planted vegetables in this square raised bed, there were very few leaves on. I had pruned heavily on this lemon tree, and so there was quite a lot of sunlight coming in here. I got the most beautiful cauliflower and broccoli out of this garden, and there was even a cabbage. So this year, not thinking, I just did the same as I did last year, and I actually even have mildew on these plants. I've never had mildew on brassicas before, but my feeling is that it's just really not getting enough sunlight. The cabbage, I mean, I harvested the cabbage not last night. Oh man, it was a tiddly little thing. It's supposed to be this big. So the point of the story is, even though these are winter vegetables, they still need enough sunlight. So in the mornings it will get some sunlight through here. In the late afternoons it will get a little bit, but I think all in all it's probably only getting 3 hours of direct sunlight, and that's just not enough. So your plants just won't thrive if they're not getting enough direct sunlight. In contrast, in the corner here I had a cauliflower which gets most of the day. It's probably getting 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight. That cauliflower was like this. I harvested it about 2 weeks ago. It was beautiful. Big leaves, so different. I mean, it really is just like, 2 meters from this area, but this is just too much shade. I mean, it seems to be doing all right with these peas. These are my daughter's blue shelling peas, and they are doing great here. But unfortunately, not for the big leafy vegetables. Another problem could be overcrowding. If you do not have enough space between your vegetables. Now look, I am all for intercropping and trying to get the maximum yield out of a small area. But in particular with your brassicas, you want to have at least 30 to 40 centimeters. Otherwise you really are going to get these tiddly little things. And if you maybe just a person all by yourself, and that's fine, then you don't mind. But if you've got a family of 5, then you want to be having that big cauliflower or the big cabbage, and spacing is your answer. Another problem could be overwatering. If you are in a winter rainfall area, or you still got your irrigation system on the same as what you had for summer, then you could be overwatering. Soggy soils will rot the roots, and then you'll end up with yellowing leaves. You might also have your vegetable beds in quite a low-lying area of your garden where the water just seems to gather there. So what can you do about that? If it's watering, then only water when the top layer of the soil is dry. using raised beds is great, because there's going to be wonderful drainage, and making sure that there's enough compost in your soil. You don't need to dig it in. I went like this. You don't need to dig it in. Just having that compost on the top, the microorganisms will draw it into the soil, and the earthworms and all of those things, because the compost helps with better drainage. So in winter, you would really just need to water once a week if it has really been dry and you haven't been getting any rain. But if you've been getting a lot of rain, then you don't need to water. Pests and diseases. You would kind of think, oh no, not in winter. Surely they're all hibernating or something. No. Aphids just love your brassicas and carrots. I have aphids down the carrots like this, right? If you scratch around by the tops in the soil, if you look, I'm actually looking at them right now. I mean, the carrots seem to be doing fine, but I can see there's the ants busy farming them and looking after them. So irritating. I've also had, for the first time, red spider mite on my snap peas. Oh, you know, slugs, are they still active? I don't have slugs and I don't have snails, because I have cannibal snails, which came from who knows where. I'm so grateful for them. Ever since I've stopped using snail ban, the cannibal snails have arrived, and I see them every now and then, and there they are busy eating away at slugs and snails. So that's at least not a problem in this garden. Cutworms. Oh, I seem to have eradicated cutworms for how, I don't know. They came and they're gone. But they are terrible. You'll just see a beautiful, healthy little plant, and then the next morning it's like wilting, and you're wondering what's going on, and then you look, oh, it's been severed, and this thing has now eaten it. Oh, I had a problem in the square tall raised bed with cutworm, only in that bed, who knows. So with cutworms, you can actually, which really worked, and I forgot about that, is you can use a bit of cardboard. I didn't use cardboard. If you take a Coke bottle and then you cut it into slices so that you've got rings, and then you would have to, depending how big your plant is, you fit that about this tall, like 15 centimeters, and you push it into the ground around the little plant, then the cutworms can't come along and get to the stem of your plant. And that really works. And then what I do is, and I know there's a cutworm problem, then I will scratch around in the soil and actually physically get them and throw them to my chickens. I suppose what you could do, if you haven't got anything, let's say they just annihilated everything, and you have a little coopy thing that you could put over, and you put your chickens in there, they will sort out your cutworm problem right there. Just going along with cutworms is the problem is grubs. I've had, they are actually like the larvae of a beetle, of various beetles. It seems most beetles will lay their eggs into the soil, and then they will be they're gross. They're those white larvae with the little brown mouth parts and little leggies right at the top, and they can get quite big and quite fat. My chickens love them. So I often find them in the compost, and they're very useful in the compost because they help to decompose things. But in your vegetable garden, they will often just eat the taproot of your plant. That is very irritating. And you can't understand, why is your plant wilting? Scratch around, there it is, there it is. So with those, I don't actually know what you're going to do. Whenever I'm putting my compost down, I sort of spread it out so that I can see if there are any of them, and then I'll feed them to the chickens. When I'm busy spading the compost into the wheelbarrow, then I'll be picking them out. But I've found them just in the soil. I've found them in the grass sometimes, if I'm digging a hole to plant a tree. So that one is a bit difficult to kind of get rid of if you do not want to use poison. So yeah, these things are still a problem. I wouldn't really suggest using poisons. The only thing that I would use if it just becomes a huge problem, because we're growing in our back gardens, it is difficult to wait until the pest pressure has gotten to that extent that the beneficial insects are moving in. And the other problem with that beneficial insect thing is they are not all that active in winter. So what I do is I will use neem, or I will use a product that I can't think of its name. I will show it to you in the B-roll footage. It's a BioGrow product. Or with aphids, sometimes I just jet them off with the hose. I put it on that sort of a flat spray setting. I jet the bejeebers off of them. I do occasionally use pyrethroid, which is the synthetic version of pyrethrum, which pyrethrum comes from a chrysanthemum, and it breaks down in 24 hours into its components. And there, I don't feel too terrible. I'm not broadcastingly spraying everywhere. I will target those pests because that will kill on contact. Neem doesn't kill on contact. The insect has to ingest the neem for it to die. So with the mites on my peas, I did try with the pyrethroid, but because the leaves are so hot and you got to spray, it's got 24 hours and it's got to make contact with that insect, and there's just so many of them, I eventually just sat there wiping each leaf and then hosing and wiping, and it seems that the plant is sort of okay now. I'm going to let it do its flush. It's sort of doing a second flush of peas. I think it'll only do 2, and then I'm pulling that plant out. Like I mentioned about mildew, once you have the mildew, it's very difficult to get rid of that. So you have to, in the case that I've got now with the mildew on these brassicas, the reason is because they're not getting enough sunlight, and you can just see the whole performance of the plant is down. So what one has to do then is, if you are concerned about mildew or rust, specifically rust on your onions and on garlic. Ah man, on garlic I get it every year. So you have to be on the game, and you have to do preventative spraying every week. I've seen online is that they will use insect netting. So specifically when you're putting in your brassicas and they're still small, cabbages, broccoli or whatever, then you can use insect netting over your thing. I mean, some guys, they will leave it on almost until harvest, and it really makes a difference. Caterpillars, the little moths, they won't know where they won't be able to get to your plants. Leaf miners, that also is a little moth thingy that lays its eggies there, and then little larvae mine into your leaves, reducing the production. It is just, all of these things cost money, but then you think to yourself, you're putting in all this effort in planting. You bought the seedlings, or you bought the seeds, you raised them, you're now putting them in the ground, and in a small backyard you only have so few, so you may as well protect what you've got. And some bonus tips. It really does help if you have certain pathogens in your soil to rotate your crops. I know Charles Dowding has proven that you can actually grow things for years. I think he's like on his 11th year of a bed where he's had leeks and potatoes and leeks and potatoes, and it's working for him. But I have noticed that if you have something like blight, that thing is in your soil for 4 years, and all your nightshades like your potatoes and tomatoes and eggplants, they will all succumb to the blight. So in that way, it does help to rotate your beds. I don't intentionally do it. I just get bored with doing the same thing all the time. So then whenever something is open, then I just put in whatever I feel will work there. For example, in this the bed which I mentioned in my last video, which is also now blocked out the sun from most of the sun from the lemon tree, I know that coriander doesn't mind having partial shade, mottled, and nor does your Swiss chard, so I plant that there. But last year I had brassicas in there, and they did great, but then there was no leaves on the lemon tree. Anyway, so that is something that you want to consider, is rotating your crops. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, because some people like Charles Dowding has proven, but I just feel if you're having a problem in the soil, or even with potatoes, scab bakes those little black things on the potatoes, like little black spots, that's the thing that's in the soil. So you want to at least move plant potatoes elsewhere if you can, but you can also just plant potatoes in buckets. It works grand. And then plant fast growing things like pok choy or Swiss chard, those kind of things where you're able to do successive planting. Radishes, 3 weeks you can harvest radishes if you like radishes. So those are things that you can move quickly. If something is died now, you're like, just have something ready to stick in its place. And then it's also important to keep your tools clean and sharp. You would want to have your tools nice and sharp so that they make a nice clean cut and not tearing when you cut and then it sort of tears, and then just keeping them nice and clean. These 5 tips should help most problems in your winter garden. Let me know in the comments if you have any solutions to any of the problems that I mentioned, that I didn't mention. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video and you found it useful. If you did, then please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next video.